Well, I am really looking forward to this workshop today. It sounds like we've got some really great information that we're going to share. So we'll go ahead and get started. And I want to welcome everyone today to our third and final session of Growing Your Economy. And I'm really excited. My name is Carrie McKillop. I'm a CED educator in Unit 10, University of Illinois Extension, which is Knox, Warren, Henderson, and McDonough counties in west central Illinois, but we're glad to have all of you joining us from across the state. I'm really excited about today's program. We have three wonderful presenters, and so we'll be going, Vera Garrett will start, then we'll go to Rich Pirog, and then we'll go to Julia, and I will give their bios and introduce them here before each one. So I'm hoping our speakers will be able to stay around and answer questions. But so for our first presentation today, we have Vera Garrett, and she is a resident of Springfield, Illinois for more than 27 years. She's currently employed with USDA FSA, and she's a professional who recognizes the importance of community support and empowering its residents by educating neighborhoods on their local health and well-being. She continues to work part-time as a nurse, promoting and teaching nutritional values of fruit and vegetables gardening, as this serves as a strong indicator that links scientific research to community needs. She's a current graduate student at the Management and Organizational Behavior program, and as Vera moves forward, completing her Master's of Science, she strives to establish an organization that exhibits positive collaborations, producing community gardens that are successful and necessary. So, Vera, I'm going to turn it over to you, and we all look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Vera Garrett. I'm excited to be a part of the webinar today. I want to start out by sharing what is a community garden. It's any piece of land gardened by a group of people to grow fresh produce for their families and others who benefit. For example, the food banks and the bread lines. What is a food desert? A food desert is an impoverished area, also can be found in rural areas, due to a lack of fresh fruits and vegetables, where affordable, healthy food is difficult to obtain. In a poor area, it's easy to buy liquor and fresh fruits and vegetables. Where I live, we have like 4 taverns within 2-block radius. So we encourage the neighborhoods and families to join us in a community garden. Next is an overview of the participants in the community garden. I'll share a little bit of history of the community garden. It once was an abandoned lot. We turned it into a beautiful garden. We was concerned parents, teachers, nurses, families, physicians, health workers was concerned about our health issues and food issues in our community, especially in the minority community in the poor areas. So the Springfield Community Garden Family Fit Center was started in 2009 with a lot adjacent to my home with an educational component. In 2010, an additional lot was identified and added. In 2011, a third lot was added, and Springfield Community Garden was incorporated as a nonprofit entity. In 2012, the fourth lot was added, showing the need for community gardens. In 2013, we partnership and expanded to a low-income housing community that housed 223 families. The importance of our community garden is the educational component that is in place. The Springfield Community Garden vision. Neighborhoods become empowered through early family learning how to lead a healthy lifestyle. The center's threefold purpose is offer neighborhood families the opportunity for better access to nutritious food through neighbors learning how to grow their own food and support the local farmers. We donated fresh produce to the Central Illinois Food Banks and St. John Bread Line for hunger relief. We offer free educational workshops. The topics was medical and health, and dietitian chef demonstrated and engaged the families in the workshops. We had a financial literacy program in place. Now, our core values was respect, integrity, sharing, and teamwork, working together to ensure delivery of effective and efficiency community garden program. Now, the purpose of promoting healthy eating habits among the minority community in our city encourages generational gardens, the grandparents, the parents, and our children. We promoted health and nutritional educational classes, fresh from the farm curriculum, Body Works, basic curriculum. We also promoted we promoted participation of low-income families and disabled community involvement. We have tabletop raised beds for the wheelchair participant, for the deaf community, the children interpreted for the mothers that was out there wanted to be involved in the community garden. We raised awareness in the community garden between diet and health issues. We shared in an addressing solution for hunger relief. How does the Springfield Community Garden Family fit in and benefit the community? Youth education. It was important to add a program with youth education for outdoor classroom where youth learn valuable skills involving practical math, communication, responsibility, and cooperation, learning about the importance of community, stewardship, and environmental responsibility. We also did a crime prevention where the neighbors started a neighborhood watch program. This increased a sense of community ownership, stewardship, and fostering the development of the community identity and its spirit. The garden offered a focal point for the community organizing, and it also led a community-based effort to deal with other social concerns. The community garden gives youth a safe place to interact with peers and can involve them in beneficial activities. The Springfield Community Garden, we continue to make a positive impact. We had, as of today, 7 different ethnic groups. We engage families on the importance of eating healthy through teaching the curriculum. I reiterate, fresh from the farm curriculum and the Body Works, basics. Where does the food grow on? Simple, basic information. Families harvest and consume their own fresh produce like collard greens, mustard, turnips, sweet potatoes, onion, cabbage, lettuce, and spinach, and tomatoes we grew in the community garden. Had 3 individuals participating in completing the Fresh from the Farm curriculum. We recognized, and the family recognized, the benefits of physical activity. Now, this is a snapshot activity from 2009 to 2013. In the collecting the sign-up sheet for the total number of participants, you can see from 2009, we started only with 27 people. We now up to 1,261 participants in the community garden. We started in 2009, 7, the number of family members collected from the sign-in sheet. As of today, it's 501 family members. Unduplicate stakeholders, we started off in 2009, 2. We're now up to 14 stakeholders. The number of ongoing participants in 2009, we started with 8. We're up now to 93. And this is unduplicate participants. 2009, we had the number of ongoing families. We only had 3. We're now up to 101 family members, unduplicate family members. The number of neighborhood workshop events held, we started with 2. As of 2013, we now up to 56 events. And the number of classrooms conducted in 2009, we started off with 4. As of today, 2013, we up to 45 classroom curriculum-based we have done. These are examples in the community garden where we incorporated health and fitness. Example, we had the team, they did an 8-minute workout, double Dutch rope, yoga. We anticipated this activity to also focus on family engaging their family in activity. There's a spirit and fun and working together. Next, we had a special a topic that the medical students and the medical doctors taught from the Chicago Area Health and Medical Career Program. Dr. Green, Dr. Garrett, and Dr. Kinney and Dr. Forte came down every other month to put on an event to engage the family in obesity, high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes 1 and 2, and they also engaged the youth, that troubled youth we added that would come to the community garden, a behavioral component Dr. Green put together for us, and he engaged the youth as well. Food preparation, the chef talked about the nutritional value of fruits and vegetables. The medical doctors as well as the chef reinforced what we had already taught the families from Fresh from the Farm curriculum and the BodyWorks Body Basics. We also added a component of financial fitness where family food household budget and healthy attitude towards viewing money. They examined the practice of savings. This was done and recognized by the American Consumer Credit Counseling Agency, National Bankers Association, and local banks. We also, the next picture I would like to show is the preparation of the food and activities that we did every week. I want to go to the next slide. So once again, the benefits of the Springfield Community Garden was producing nutritious food and improving access to nutritious food by people learning how to grow their own food, decrease family food budgets, contributes to healthy eating habits, enhance the value of farmer market, where we had young mothers to encourage them to use their WIC at the farmers market. We also every week share who went to the farmers market, so we encourage farmers markets every week that we met up. We created educational opportunity. We created income opportunity and economic development. When the teams was out working the community garden, we would have neighbors would ask, are they allowed to come and cut the grass? So they had money that they made just by being involved in the community garden, and other neighbors seeing the positive impact we was making on the teams and wanted to help the teams out. We also provide opportunity for intergenerational cross-culture connection, and we loved it that it was being a Go Green environment. The local involvement. The University Extension Office provided leadership mentoring in the community garden. resource material at the Illinois University Extension. We can go on the website and pull down material that we needed to teach additional for our classroom curriculums. Katie and I completed the necessary requirements to become a Master Gardener. The Illinois Department of Public Health, Women's Health taught a 10-week curriculum, body basic, and they also sponsored 3 people to attend a Fresh from the Farm workshop from Springfield Community Garden. The Illinois Department of Health, the Center of Minority Health Services, also supported an intergenerational approach to wellness initiative. The Illinois Environment Protection Agency tested our soil. The City of Springfield Park District donated picnic tables and benches for the educational component of the community garden. Alderman Doris Turner in our community was instrumental in supporting and organizing and recruiting volunteers in the community garden as well. How can the local government increase support? We need to continue to provide expertise in the Master Gardener program, a year-round facility for on-site demonstration for family exercise support system, allowing a zoning for community gardens, providing an easy, accessible inventory of all vacant public and private lots and open space, various source of donation, lumber, equipment, and monetary given to University Extension to allow a database for other cities and surrounding cities who are interested in doing a community garden to work together. Our mission statement: promoting healthy lifestyles through developing healthy eating habits, encouraging regular consumption of community garden grown fruits and vegetables, and educating on compliance practice for healthy bodies through Center of Exercising program. Collectively, the needs of the community must be met by establishing community gardens and growing produce in the poorest neighborhoods and increasing health and nutritional learning experience that can be hands-on and in the community.
Thank you so much, Vera. That was great. That's a phenomenal participation that you're having in your program. Since we're running short on time, we'll move right on to Rich Pirogue. And Rich is a Senior Associate Director at the Center for Regional Food Systems at Michigan State University. His work includes developing a statewide food hub network and providing oversight to the new center work groups and communities of practice. From 1990 to 2011, he was the Associate Director and Program Leader for Marketing and Food Systems at the Leopold Center for Sustainable Agriculture in Iowa, and some of us in Illinois were lucky enough to hear him speak several times in that capacity. And at the Leopold Center, Pirogue directed the Value Chain Partnership Project, and that's an Iowa-based network of food and agricultural working groups that provide technical assistance to farmer-led food businesses. And his research and collaborations on local foods, food networks and communities of practice, food value chains, and eco-labels have been publicized and cited widely across the U.S. His recent writings include the economic impact of local foods, food hubs, and building food value chains to address social change. So, Rich, it's all yours.
Thank you very much. Very briefly about our center. We're about 2 years old. We were formerly the C.S. Mott Group for Sustainable Food Systems. One of the reasons that I was brought here to Michigan State was to help the director develop this new center. Our focus is on regionally integrated sustainable food systems. We, among the work that we're active in with our staff and with our faculty and MSU Extension field affiliates, includes the Michigan Good Food Charter, which is a set of goals and priority actions to bring healthy food to all Michiganders. We work in food access and health in the areas of farm to institution and food hubs. food systems planning, different production systems including organic and regional food systems research and outreach. And my comments today will focus on the work, the ongoing growth of food hubs across the country in a recent national survey. And to put things in perspective as far as where food hubs fit in and what food hubs are, I think this slide is very appropriate. What we just heard from our previous speaker around community gardens really fits in the far left here, sort of the personal gardening and self-sufficiency agriculture where you're providing your own food. Farmers markets would be examples of individual farm sourcing, the one that's called Sector B on this particular slide, where you go to a farmer's market and buy directly from a farmer, or you might have a situation where you subscribe to a community-supported ag enterprise and a farmer delivers products to you or drops that product off at a central distribution point. Food hubs fit in Sector C in this spectrum of the ways that food is provided in the food system. And this is what we would call aggregate farm sourcing. And this is where a number of farmers work together and supply is aggregated to sell to a variety of markets in food service and retail and in restaurants. There isn't a formal definition of a food hub. The definition that we're using in the National Food Hub Collaboration, which I'm a part of and which USDA uses, talks about it's either a business or organization that manages distribution, aggregation, and marketing of source-identified food products. And so we are talking about one particular sort of core part of food hubs. Usually when we're talking about source-identified is local or regionally produced food. There are many different types of food hubs. As one colleague of mine here in Michigan said when I was interviewing him for a publication, when you've seen one food hub, you've seen one food hub. And so they're all very different. What they do share in common is usually aggregating to be able to supply a larger volume market. But food hubs, beyond what they share around food aggregation and distribution, may also play important roles in the community as far as donating food to food banks. They may provide apprenticeships or internships. They may provide different services to the farmers that supply them. And they also may do training for farmers. And some food hubs, for example, are training individual farmers or farmer networks around food safety issues as we see the adoption of the Food Safety Modernization Act. So let's move to this national survey. Our Center for Regional Food Systems was a university partner along with a national nonprofit, the Wallace Center for Sustainable Ag, with help and advice from USDA on a national food hub survey. So we did the research in association in our partnership with Wallace Center. We, first of all, when we look at we had over 220 food hubs or entities that identified themselves as food hubs. We received over 100 responses. Of the food hubs that completed the survey, about a third of them were nonprofit organizations, close to 50% were for-profit, and about 13% were cooperatives. When we look at the products that are typically sold in food hubs across the country, fresh produce is both by gross sales and actual total amount of product is usually the most common product. Meat and poultry would be second, followed by eggs and other value-added products and dairy products. So again, these food hubs vary in their business structure and they vary in products sold, but a vast majority of them do carry produce. When we look at where these food hubs are across the country and the types of areas, the vast majority of them are in in and around metro areas, whether they be very large metro areas like some of our larger cities, or small to mid-size metro areas of 250,000 or less, or populations of 20,000 or more. It is more difficult because of the lack of density of a population to see a food hub located in a very rural area, although there are some examples of food hubs in those areas. When we look at the actual finances of these food hubs, what we found was a range from very small food hubs that may have just started with only a small amount of sales to 75 million, so between 1,500 and 75 million. The median was 450,000, and for those hubs that are 5 years old or less, their revenues tended to be in that $500,000 range or less. We also looked at one aspect of food hub finances and business efficiency, and a very simple business efficiency ratio was calculated for all the hubs, where we took the responses they provided for total expenses and divided that by their revenue. So the lower the number, the more efficient or likely more profitable that food hub would be. What we found is that a number of food hubs were indeed profitable. We found that those food hubs that were cooperatives tended to be the most efficient and the most profitable, and the food hubs that had been in business for longer periods of time tended to be more efficient and more profitable. And this would be true of a lot of different types of new businesses that are developing. You know, the first few years tend to be more challenging because of startup costs, and revenues are slow to come in. So this was, for us, it was not surprising from the standpoint of comparing it to other types of business, and it was a positive trend because, again, there are some stereotypes about food hubs that they're not profitable, and we're seeing that they indeed could be profitable. They can be profitable. There's also a stereotype or a perception out there that most of the food hubs are only in existence because of grant funding, and without the grant funding they wouldn't be able to survive. Well, of the food hubs that did answer this question in particular, which was 88 food hubs and a big part of the total response that we had, we did find that over 50% were not at all dependent on outside grant funding. And only 17% were highly dependent on grant funding. So, and some of these that were more highly dependent were hubs that were newer and or were hubs that were trying to be able to have a focus on providing more healthy foods to historically marginalized communities or low-income communities. There were a lot of challenges and barriers that are identified to growth of these food hubs. The three that stand out were managing growth, balancing supply and demand, and access to capital. What you're seeing in this particular chart here is the first, second, and third greatest challenges. And so hubs really had those three issues at the top of their list. It's interesting to see that meeting regulatory requirements, which would include food safety, is on the list, but it's not ranking in that top 3 or 4. And one reason this may be is just the fact that these issues around growth and balancing supply and demand are so critical since a number of these hubs have such very tight margins, and many of them are just getting started, that the Food Safety Modernization Act and those issues are very important, but they see them sort of being on the horizon and not having to deal with yet today. Today they're trying to be able to balance out their supply and demand and being able to have enough capital and have the cash flow to be able to run their business. So some conclusions about these hubs that I wanted to share is that they are We are finding through this first significant national survey, there was a survey in 2011, very small sample size in 2011, I think about 35 hubs. This is a significant sample with over 100 hubs participating. We find that they can be viable business operations. They vary in their structures. About a third are nonprofits. Almost all of the hubs that we interviewed believe that the demand for their products and the demand for their services from farmers that supply them continues to grow. But challenges exist in the area of managing growth, balancing supply and demand. We did find, I don't have the slide here in front of you, but we did find that on average, the average food hub was supplying or providing about 19 part-time and full-time jobs on average, and ranging from 1 to hundreds of employees, depending on revenue and the size of the hub. Another important aspect of this work as we look to at Michigan, and we not only have a funding from the state for a value-added regional food system grant program that last year provided nearly $1 million to 5 food hubs across the state in the Ann Arbor area, in Detroit, in Northwest Michigan, in and around Traverse City, in the Upper Peninsula, and in the Lansing area, the state capital. So we have that funding and the promise of some additional funding of perhaps close to $500,000 this year as well as other USDA funding and foundation funding. Through some funding from the Kresge Foundation and support from the Kellogg Foundation, our center, along with a private consulting firm, Morse Marketing Connections, we convened the Michigan Food Hub Network. This network, we currently are meeting on a regular basis statewide. We have recurring webinars, we have a listserv. We try to create that space so that food hubs and the farmers that supply food hubs, the educators and business partners that provide technical assistance to those hubs, all have a open and transparent learning environment. We have 10 local advisors or conveners that we have in and around the state that are helping to convene meetings, supply information to individuals and businesses that are interested in food hubs. It's also real important, and I want our audience to be to understand that some folks are still very unclear about what a food hub is. A food hub, it does not necessarily have to have a bricks and mortar building. As a matter of fact, here in Michigan, some of our smaller efforts, they may have access to a truck, but it may be just 3, 4, or 5 farmers that are aggregating supply of healthy local foods, say selling to a casino, a hospital, several restaurants, and from some of those higher margin markets or higher end markets, they may be able to also better serve lower income communities that, as our previous presenter had shared, would be areas where they don't have access to a grocery store that has a regular supply of healthy fruits and vegetables. So this network, along with state funding, which helps leverage federal funding, has been in place for about 1.5 years and has been very instrumental in providing a statewide space, a statewide learning community for collaboration across the hubs and more coordinated technical assistance from extension from other partners, consultants, state agencies to work together to try to address the various challenges that we see in food hub operations in the state. So that's just a very brief synopsis of what's happening nationally with food hubs and what's happening in Michigan. For more information, I'd be glad to answer any emails and hopefully at the end here have an opportunity to answer a question or two. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Rich. That was fascinating, and I'm sure we'll have lots of questions. I've already got some written down here on food hubs, because that does seem to be one of the hot topics in most of our areas. But before we get to those questions, we're also really excited today to have as our third presenter another sort of next step system when we're looking at local foods. And our presenter today, third presenter, is Julia Glovis, and she is the Illinois State Lead in the National Farm to School Network and serves in that capacity as an employee of University of Illinois Extension. And she currently works with partners across the state to support local efforts for the Farm to School program. And she's going to discuss current and upcoming Farm to School campaigns that we have here in Illinois and across the country, and specifically some of the great strides that are being made here within the state of Illinois. So we really look forward to hearing what she has to say, and it's all yours, Julia.
So actually, and I was asked to speak on the value-added definition and implications of in growing our economy. So I'm going to actually talk about that in terms of how we can work on the value-added avenues to help with institutional buying and products and the whole supply chain. So when we look at the value-added products, I pulled out of there from the U.S. Department of Agriculture's definition, and you can go ahead and read through these. I'm sure we're all familiar with all the specifics that are under the umbrella of value-added. But today in particular, and as it relates to Farm to School, I'm going to speak about the last bullet point. So the implications of as a result of the change in physical state or manner, is that the customer base of the commodity or product is expanded and a greater portion of revenue is made available to the producers. So I'm cutting to the chase on this. The whole point of what we're going to be talking about in these next couple minutes are just about how growers, producers can capitalize on value-added products, in particular in institutional foods and more specifically in farm to school. It doesn't take much thinking to realize or to understand that most of the products in terms of specialty crops in Illinois are harvested during the months that our kids are on summer vacation. So with that being said, we can understand that there's an issue about getting fresh local food into schools during the school year, particularly when you consider that most schools across the country at this time don't even have pots and pans or the capacity to cook from scratch or handle fresh produce. In the last 30 years, we've really gotten away from that and gotten more into a heat and serve model where most of our schools receive already prepared foods and they heat them up via microwaves or warming ovens. So what we're going to talk about is a big opportunity for value added and the implications in terms of farm to school and growers. So when we look at the marketing piece, farmers who market to institutions, and we're going to get into that a little bit here in a minute, it makes a big deal. We have so many schools that are looking for locally grown product. They're struggling to find out where they can find it. Going back to Rich's talk about aggregation, we know that this is a very big piece in institutional buying that really needs to be built up in our infrastructures in order for everyone to get to the market of institutions across the board, whether it's schools, hospitals, prisons, etc. I'm not going to read all this, but again, this is all the trends that are on this came out of a report out of Ohio by John Ellerman, who talks about the importance of value-added products and how we're really moving toward a consumer-driven product. And he really sees that we're going to be seeing much more demand for ready-to-cook, ready-to-eat foods that are based on local products, rather than under the current global system that was in one of the slides that Rich showed. So it is a realignment of what we're still going to need minimal processing in our local food, but we don't have the current infrastructure in at least most of the Midwest. It's already been talked about how food safety and quality control is becoming a huge factor, especially in terms of schools. We have a real issue with that with school food buyers when they want to know about local food. It's very interesting when I talk to them about food safety, and sometimes I hear that their concerns are that buying directly from farmers could actually be a problem because of food safety issues. So I generally ask what makes them feel, what gives them the guarantee or makes them feel the sense of security of food safety from their vendors. And most often they don't know, they're not familiar with GAP, they don't know about food safety plans. It's just a perceived security that isn't necessarily the case where we can just say that buying directly from the farmers is not an option. We do see that there are a lot of options for farmers selling directly to the product. And I know this says in Ohio, but because this report that I'm referring to did come out of Ohio, but we see this nationwide in terms of consumer demand for local and healthy food. So what's really important about value added in terms of our producers is that they're really focusing on production around their market and rather than a commodity to sell. In other words, what we're really hearing in terms of value added, and I guess I need to reiterate this, value added can be marketing your product. So it could be a matter of a product you're already growing, but you're doing a big marketing campaign of that product, for instance, directly to a school or another institutional buying. That is value added when you're making that market more valuable to certain parts of the food chain. And I particularly like that comment about producers who market their products are price makers, while producers who sell their products are price takers. It is increasingly important, especially for institutional purchasing, that farmers know what growers want. We've had a lot of cases where I have farmers contacting me around Illinois and say, I have X amount of surplus product and I don't know why schools can't buy it. And basically, it's taken a lot of education to have growers also understand that the school menus are made and set out way ahead of time. And to suddenly just be confronted with a farmer saying, I have this local product, as much as people would like to buy it, if it's not already in their planning and in their menu stages, it's not that easy to just take what's available. So planning ahead is really an important piece. So it's really important for producers who want to know what to grow and who want to market their products to the schools to get in touch with them before they actually start putting seed in the ground. And we're actually working very much right now in a couple areas of our state to do some meet the buyer events with school food buyers and growers before they actually start buying their seed, which is in January. So the value-added piece is actually a really important part for our community of farmers and rural residents. And the value-added, and this goes back again, the value-added, this really connects on to what Rich was speaking about in terms of aggregation. Excuse me, and the aggregation and the food hubs that can actually do some of the simple processing or this aggregation piece. So even when we have a group of farmers who are interested in selling, or we have individual farmers who are interested in selling into institutional markets, most of them don't have the capacity to also grow it and minimally process, and by that I mean wash and chop in a uniform size, and then also get it to the end user, which is the institution. Really what is needed is aggregation points, and under the heading that was pointed out in some of the slides, one of those is even just an area where folks can gather it, do minimal washing and packing. This is a great site for anybody who is interested in ways to build successful businesses on value-added products, including institutional buying I suggest people have a look at that. And then, of course, there is the value-added producer grants, and those are available across the country that can help smaller businesses or farmers add to their existing business to add different pieces that are necessary to fulfill these markets. The maximum grant amount of these awards are $100,000 for planning, $300,000 for working capital, and you need to contact your USDA Rural Development State Officer. And in Illinois, that's Colleen Callahan, and her information is below. That is what I have in terms of value-added and farm to school. We do have a lot of programs that are going on around farm to school around the state, which I would suggest if anybody's interested, you go to the website under my name there, the EDU Small Farms, and we do have a list of all the current campaigns that we're working on. And I'm going to stop now because I know that there are people who are interested in questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Julia, and it's nice to see, you know, so many different things going on. And I want to open it up now and see if anyone has questions for any of our presenters. Just overwhelming amount of information that we've gotten today. So, well, I'm not seeing anyone else, but Rich, I would like to ask you, you mentioned that on average, these food hubs were creating 17 jobs. Now, are those just within the food hubs, or does that include the growers and producers that are contributing to those hubs?
The average number is actually 19.
Oh, okay.
And those are part and full-time positions within the hub. Obviously, the smaller revenue, the newer of the hubs are likely to have fewer employees. You know, for example, that 19 does not distinguish between full and part-time, but those are just within the hub. That's not the farmers. That's not anywhere else in the chain other than at the hub.
Well, that's certainly more than what we were thinking around here. I also have a question for Vera. I was curious, Vera, what kind of marketing did you do to get that sort of explosion in participants in your community gardens?
We have several ways we did it. We went to the low-income family housing in Popular Place, and we did the groundwork explaining with our brochure what is a community garden and engaging families. We also word of mouth, church events, several major events we went to explain what is a community garden. We did surveys to engage family and explain what is a community garden. So we had a lot of intense stakeholders that was involved that went to participated in the event. So we had a lot of involvement in the community, from the aldermen to Illinois Public Health to the University Extension getting involved, Master Garden coming and mentoring us. So of various methods we had used.
Well, that's just absolutely great. And then I do have a final question then for Julia. Julia, has anybody talked much with you in that whole Farm to School initiative about the fact that many of our schools don't have the capability of really cooking from scratch, that a lot of some of our produce might come into a school like that? And are there any initiatives to sort of address that within the schools as opposed to value added outside the schools?
So yes, and there is a range across the state. We have a lot of schools that are contracted to work with vendors. So in other words, I call them caterers, but basically they don't handle any of the food sourcing. So they would use someone like Chartwell Thompson or Aramark, who bring in their own staff and their own resources to cook, and they do cook sometimes right at the school. You have other models where it's cooked off-site and brought in, but we are finding that yes, we can still use local foods in these supply chains by trying to get a lot of these vendors are interested in purchasing local food. So what we're trying to do as we're working on Farm to School in Illinois is when we have a Meet the Buyers, for instance, we have some coming up where we're having those people come and talk to the farmers, the more the middlemen. In terms of are we doing anything to make more scratch cooking available, if that was what you're asking, there were some grants out a while ago, but there's so much to that because even the staff isn't trained in scratch cooking. So it's a long haul, but definitely we are making progress.
Great, and I also see that we have another question from down in the St. Louis area on the Illinois side, wanting to know who you consider your stakeholders, Julie or Vera.
Stakeholders are a team of medical doctors from the CHAP program. We have the intergenerational approach of wellness initiative through the Illinois Department of Public Health Center for Minority Health Service. We partnership with the city of Springfield. Like I say, they were instrumental in donating the the benches and the picnic table for the educational component. We have our aldermen involved. We have the University Extension, Grow a Road from Hunger. We have Stewardship Alliance, instrumental in helping structured and guideline and consulting. We have so many chefs involved. We get the University Extension this time, the dietitian will be incorporated. So we have a lot of the financial fitness, Dr. Dillon. It's an ongoing list of churches, of people that's involved.
That's great. Thank you so much. Do we have any final questions for our presenters today? Well, I want to thank all three of them. The information they shared with us today was absolutely fascinating, and I want to let everyone know that we will have this webinar edited and up on YouTube within the next couple weeks. So if there's a slide you want to see or want to hear the presentation again, feel free to contact us, and it will be available on Unit 10, which is Knox, Warren, and Henderson counties. If you go to and McDonough, our University of Illinois website, you should be able to access it there. And we want to thank you all for your participation, and especially our presenters, and hope you all enjoyed the presentation.